This card is an absolute beast. If you've got 2 red in your deck, it is an auto-occlude. Period. End of story. The end. Amen. Hello my friends, welcome to the Commander's Crypt. We're going to do a deck tech on Hinata today. Seems that Hinata and Isshin are the 2 most popular commanders from Neon Dynasty. Surprising me, I thought that would be Umezawa, but there's a lot of interest in this deck as well. So if you haven't heard before, the Commander's Crypt has partnered with Go For Games here in the New Orleans area. If you need cards, go check out their website, or if you're in the local area, go support your local game store. So today we're going to talk about Hinata, but before that, if you would please like and subscribe to this video if you haven't already. I wanted to thank everybody for the 2,000 subscriptions. We're growing very fast, and that is very humbling. Thank you very much for that. I have a Patreon, go to Patreon, Commander's Crypt NOLA. If you want to support the channel, anything I get on there is going to the ASPCA, and that will register you to be put in a drawing for a box of Neon Dynasty. So if you check us out on Facebook, and eventually we'll be getting on Twitter too. We are on Twitter, but we have not put any videos on there yet. Also have a website. We'll have a URL for that coming soon. So without further ado, we will get into it. Today we're going to talk about Hinata. This deck lends itself to, group spells. I'll read it. Hinata is a flying Kirin, 1 white, red, white, and blue, and a colorless. Kirin Spirit, flying trample. Spells you cast cost 1 colorless less to cast for each target, and spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. So it's kind of on the blue and white taxing your opponent's tip. So I'll show you this deck here real quick, and then on the next video we're going to open up boxes of the precons, 5 of them, 1 for each house. So with this deck, what you want to do is put all the group big numerous target spells in there to be able to cast them for very little mana. So that's what we're going to do with this deck. So without further ado, we'll get into it. You're going to have your mana enablers such as Commander Sphere. 3 colors, it gets a little bit harder to fix your mana. Is it Signet, Talisman of Conviction? And one more thing too, here at the Commander's Crypt, we like to actually show the cards and have the deck, not just, get on some green screen and talk about cards. Here at the Commander's Crypt, we actually have the cards, and we're going to show you the cards. So, Worn Power Stone, Blasphemous Act. This is a group spell that gets cheaper the more opponents you have, and the more creature that's on the battlefield. So what you're going to see is every time we cast these big mama spells, we're only going to pay like 1 or 2 of our own mana to do it, like in the case of Blasphemous Act here. Board wipe, got to have a certain amount of board wipes in your deck. Thrix, the Sudden Storm, he's also going to help you. 2 blue, 3 colorless. Thrix, the Sudden Storm, he has flash, he's an elemental giant. He flies as well. Spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or greater, cost 1 less to cast. It can't be countered. And that's the thing right there. You're going to see there's a lot of instants and sorceries in this deck because of Hinata. And so what he's going to do is he's going to allow you to cast them even cheaper and make sure they don't become countered. Next we got Heliod's Intervention. Another board wipe, 2 white X, choose 1. Destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments. Target player gains twice X life. So that X is going to be, you know, knocked down by 1 for each target. So again, you're going to be able to target a bunch of stuff for very cheap, probably just a couple of white. You're going to see we have ways of replaying these cards in our graveyard too. So with that last one, you could give yourself twice life and then keep doing it a few times. Oketra's Last Mercy gives you staying power, 2 white, 1 colorless. Your life total becomes equal to the starting life total. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. That's to get you back in the game if you've taken a lot of damage. The further you go in the game and the more opponents that are out, the better chances are of you winning. A lot of times I'll just try not to attack anybody and just try to be a ninja at the table there and let everybody else fight each other. The longer you go into the game, the better chance you have of winning it. Kaikar Wind's Fury, red, white, and blue, and 1 colorless. Flying, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, created 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying, you can sacrifice it to get red. You're going to be, like I said, there's a lot of instants and sorceries in this deck. You're going to be creating blockers that you could then use for mana later. Spell Crumple. It's got blue, so we're going to have counter spells in there to counter your opponent's worst spells. Play of the game. 2 white, 6 colorless assist. Another player can pay up to 6 of the spell's cost. Exile all non-land permanents. Reality Chip, fantastic card. This card is an absolute beast. Blue and colorless. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as the Reality Chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. So you basically put this on somebody, on a creature, and now you can look at the top card of your library, and they're going to be, if it's a land, you play it and not the land in your hand, and then any instants or sorceries that you have on top, you'll be able to just keep playing them and just dig it into your deck because they're going to be so cheap because of Hinata's ability. Thought Vessel. You have no maximum hand size. Paradoxical Outcome. This card sees a lot of play in Type 1 decks. Paradoxical Outcome, 1 blue, 3 colorless, instant, return any number of target non-land, non-token permanents you control to their owner's hand. Draw a card for each card returned to your card this way. And that is going to make this cheaper and allow you to bounce spells, things that are on your board that are in jeopardy, and then draw a bunch of cards. That's why we've got Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower in here. You're going to have a full grip. By invitation only, 2 white, 3 colorless. Choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. Okay, another board wipe, but stronger because it's sacrificial. It's not just destroy. Mass Manipulation already. However many targets you get to pay 1 less for each target. 4 blue, XX, gain control of X target creatures and or planeswalkers, very strong. Swords to Plowshare. Volcanic Offering. Again, as you can see with Hinata, she's going to make these spells only cost like 1 red or 1 blue or whatever it is. Instant, destroy target non-basic land you don't control, and target non-basic land at an opponent choice you don't control. Volcanic Offering deals 7 damage to target creature you don't control, and 7 damage to target creature of opponent's choice you don't control. Hinata makes these big spells much cheaper. You're only going to be paying 1 or 2 for these big, huge sorceries. Soul Ring, of course, because Soul Ring. Shu Yun, the Silent Tempest. Prowess, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may pay hybrid red-white, red-white. If you do, target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Comet Storm, multi-kicker. 2 red and X, choose target creature or player, then choose another target creature or player for each time Comet Storm was kicked. Comet Storm deals X damage to each of them. So as you can see, every time you target something, Hinata makes it free. So it makes these big board wipe spells and steal other people's spells super cheap and super big. Semester's End, 1 white, 3 colorless. Exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of the next end step, return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter if a creature, and an additional loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. So this will allow you to save your things and then put counters on them when they come back. Inspired Sphinx, flying 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents you have. Again, this is a deck that's geared toward large groups of people. So we play, sometimes we play 7 to 9 guys, and they're long battles. You know, you drop this down and you get to draw a bunch of cards and have a body out on the battlefield. Mystic Confluence, 2 blue, 3 colorless, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Counter target spell, unless its controller pays 3, return target creature to its owner's hand, draw a card. Displace, exile up to 2 target creatures you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their control. That takes care, you know, that takes advantage of ETPs like that Sphinx. You know, it says enter the battlefield, so you know, you could keep blinking him and draw a bunch of cards again. This deck has a Thought Vessel and a Reliquary Tower in it to make sure that you don't have to discard stuff. Geometric Nexus, whenever a player casts an instant sorcery spell, put a number of charge counters on the Geometric Nexus equal to that spell's mana value. 6, tap it, remove all charge counters from the Nexus, create a green and blue fractal creature token. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of charge counters removed this way. So you put this out there, a bunch of people are slinging instants and sorceries. This thing gets big quick. You can, you know, keep doing it throughout the game. And there are no mana values on this as far as like a forest or an island or anything like that. So you could put this in any deck. Doesn't have to be in this deck. Any deck that has lots of instants and sorceries. Dismantling Wave. As you can see, this deck has a lot of board wipes, so it keeps wiping the board and disrupting your opponents. 1 white, 2 colorless for each opponent, so that's a target right there. So this thing will be just like 1 white. Destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment that player controls. Then you can cycle it. When you cycle it, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So it's just going to be waves and waves of board wipes, disrupting what your opponents are trying to do. Sublime Epiphany, this is a good card. Very pricey because it is such a good card. 2 blue, 4 colorless. It's an instant. Choose 1 or more. So you're going to most likely counter a spell with this, but then also you could target activated or triggered ability. And then after that, you would most likely return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Anything that's causing you a problem from your opponents or something you want to put back in your hand. Create a token that's a copy of target creature control. That is very, very strong. You know, you got a Blightsteel Colossus out there now. You got 2 of them. Target player draws a card. So you get a lot of value out of this card. Next, Dika, Fractal Theorist. 1 blue, 4 colorless Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put X counters on it where that spell's mana ability. So, you know, these are force multipliers that will help you create more creatures out of thin air that you don't have to cast per se, and help you with blocks and attacks. Last line says 1 blue, 3 colorless target creature token can't be blocked this turn. So there you go. Make your fractal tokens unblockable. Your big fatties. Indomitable Creativity, 3 red X. Destroy X target artifacts under creatures. For each permanent destroyed this way, his controller reveals cards from the top of his or her library until an artifact or creature card is revealed and exile that card. Those players put the exiled card on the battlefield and then shuffle their library. So again, this will, you probably really just cast this for 3 and hit a bunch of targets. Taigam Ujatai Master. 1 blue, 1 white, 2 colorless, instant sorcery and dragon spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities. Another way to make sure your spells don't get countered. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, if Taigam attacked this turn, that spell gains rebound. Exile the spell as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast that card from exile without paying its mana cost. So not only do you have these big, massive group spells that go off, but then you can just keep bouncing them. There's all kinds of ways to keep using them over and over in this deck. Whirlwind of Thought. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. You're going to have lots of cards in your hand. Disorder in the Court 1. This is a very good card. This came in the Millicent Precon. 1 blue, 1 white, X. Exile X target creatures, then investigate X times. Return the exiled cards to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. To investigate, create a colorless clue artifact token with 2 colorless, sack this artifact, draw a card. Again, that's going to be free for every target. And then you're going to be able to make a bunch of clues and draw cards. Besiege You Who Shelters All. Comes to play tap, pay 2 life, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. If they mana spell an instant sorcerer spell, that spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. It's going to be very hard to counteract what you're doing with this deck. Allay 1 white, 1 colorless. It's got buyback. Destroy target enchantment. Again, this gets 1 less for every target. Free, cheap, you're just slinging big cheap instants and sorceries and making dudes from it. Wrong Turn. 1 white, 1 blue, 2 colorless. Target opponent gains control of target creature. If an attacking or blocking creature changes controllers, it's removed from combat. Lightning Greaves to protect Hinata. Karmic Guide to get whatever you need out of your graveyard. Pro Black 2/2. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's very hard to go up against this deck because it keeps destroying or bouncing everybody's permanents. What I would probably add in here as well is a metallic summoning. It's a lot like the Shark Typhoon. It's an enchantment for 5, 2 blue, 3 colorless. And what it does is it creates creatures whenever you cast an instant or sorcery for whatever that mana cost was. Shark Typhoon, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an X blue shark creature token with flying, where X is that spell's ability. Again, these are going to get huge because of all of the extra mana you're going to get for each target. So your metallic summonings will be huge. Shark Typhoon sharks will be huge. Then you can start alpha striking people. Another thing that I would potentially put in this deck is a card called Thing in the Ice. It comes in. It's very cheap. Doesn't do anything, has counters on it, but then when you cast instants and sorcerer spells, you take counters off and make a big fat creature. Shadow Spear, 1 colorless. It gives you a lifelink. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. It has trample and lifelink. Permanent to your opponent's control, lose hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. You could use that in combination with your kill spells to kill everything, even indestructible stuff. Feather the Redeemed. 2 white, 1 red. Flying. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, target as a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard. As it resolves, as you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. Again, keep blinking stuff or keep using stuff. just keep using these spells over and over again. And then, besides making creatures from your instants and sorceries, you can then give lifelink from them, so you could burn somebody for a bunch, and then, or creatures, and then get all that life back. Fire Song and Sunspeaker, 1 white, red, red, 1 red, 4 colorless. Red instant sorcery spells you control have lifelink. Whenever a white instant sorcery spell causes you to gain life, Fire Song and Sunspeaker deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So there you go. You play these big spells for free, pretty much. Then they have lifelink. But then when that happens, you get to lightning bolt something, creature or player. Propaganda to help with your defense. Radiant Scroll Wielder, 1 red, white, 1 red, 2 colorless. Instant sorcery spells you control have lifelink again. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. If a spell cast this way would be put in the graveyard, exile it instead. This allows you to get those super cheap spells out of your graveyard and do it again. And get lifelink from them. Soulfire Eruption, 3 red, 6 colorless. Choose any number of target creatures, planeswalkers, and/or players. For each of them, exile the top card of your library. Then, Soulfire Eruption deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost of that permanent player. You may play the exiled cards until the end of your next turn. Again, super cheap. It's probably going to cost you like 3 red. And then do it again with all of the spell repeaters you have in here. Meteor Blast deals 4 damage to each of X target creatures and or players. For 3 red, you're going to be able to do 4 damage to a lot of stuff. Swiftfoot Boots, Pyromancer's Goggles, 5 colorless, add red. When that mana is spent to cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell. And you may choose new copies, targets for the copy. So with Hinata and this thing, you're going to be able to play spells for super cheap and then copy them for super cheap. Your spells are only going to cost you 1 or 2 pips. Decoy Gambit, for each opponent, choose up to 1 target creature that player controls, then return that creature to its owner's hand unless its controller has. You draw a card. Again, costs you 1 blue to do that. Domineering Will, this is a very good card. It's an instant. Target player gains control of up to 3 target non-attacking creatures until end of turn. Untap those creatures. They block this turn if able. So what you're able to do is tractor beam other people's creatures and have them block when somebody attacks you, which will probably kill a bunch of creatures. And then you get all the benefits from this spell. You could sling it multiple times. Next we've got Sphinx of the Second Sun, 2 blue, 6 colorless, flying. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase after this phase. The beginning phase includes the untap, upkeep, and draw steps. So with this guy out, you get to draw 2 cards and tap all your mana, then untap it again. 6/6 flying beat stick too. Mavinda, Student's Advocate, 1 white, 2 colorless, flying, 0. You may cast target instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard this turn. If that spell doesn't target a creature you control, it costs 8 more to cast this way. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. Activate this only once each turn. Hinata is going to help pay for that if you want to target somebody else's stuff. Maniform Hellkite, 2 red, 2 colorless, flying. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red Dragon Illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. These spells are going to be massive. Then you make either a shark, big flying shark, or a big flying dragon with haste and go smack somebody with it. Like I said, some recommendations would be metallic summonings and Thing in the Ice. March of Swirling Mist, 1 blue X as an additional cost to cast a spell. You may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. Up to X target creatures phase out. So another big spell. When you target stuff, probably just cast this for blue and then maybe make a big creature from Metallic Summoning or Shark Typhoon. Elsha of the Infinite, red, white, and blue. And 2 Prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. You may look at the top card of your library. You may cast the top card of your library if it's a non-creature, non-land spell. And you may cast it as though it had flash. Again, that's like a reality chip. With Hinata, it makes these spells so big, you just cast them for a couple of pips off the top of your deck. So you're gonna have a big hand. You're gonna have, and be able to cast out of your graveyard and out of your deck. Blatant Thievery. Probably just cast 3 blue to cast this for each opponent. Gain control of target opponent permanent that player controls. Very strong card in Commander. By force, red X, destroy X target artifacts. You're going to be able to kill everybody else's stuff and pay just 1 red or maybe just a couple of mana. Then make dummies and then sling it again. And they won't be able to counter them. Soulfire Grandmaster, 1 white, 1 colorless, lifelink. Instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink, so there you go again. Making dummies, slinging them over, they're not counterable, and then you're gaining life. And red, blue, 2 colorless. The next time you cast an instant sorcery spell from your hand this turn, put that card in your hand instead of into your graveyard as it resolves. So these spells are so cheap that it won't cost you nothing. You'll have mana to be able to put it back in your hand with this card. And then we're going to have ways of making your bombs cheap or as free as possible. Leyline Tyrant, 2 red, 2 colorless, flying. You don't lose unspent mana as steps and phases end. When Leyline Tyrant dies, you may pay an amount of X. When you do, it deals that much damage to any target. So this thing will be, it's like a mana battery. And then all that mana you could use to zap something when it dies. You could use this to power, you can use Neheb and Leyline Tyrant to help power this bomb right here. This is a very, very good card. I would recommend picking them up. Nobody's going to be, I don't think Wizards is ever going to reprint this card. This thing is an absolute beast. I won a game the other night with this thing. So with Leyline Tyrant or Neheb the Eternal or with Mana Geyser, what you can do is late game Mana Geyser and get a bunch of mana, or with Neheb get more mana, 2 red, 3 colorless, afflict. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, add red to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponent's lost this turn. So I actually kind of did this the other day. I had Kalthus out in my Zeatora deck, and I swung with Kalthus and with 21 points of damage, and I got 21 mana for it. Then I turned around and there was only 3 opponents left. I used it to cast Crackle with Power, and I did 35 points of damage to the last 3 remaining players. This card is an absolute bomb. If you can, this card has my highest recommendation. In my humble opinion, I believe that if you have a few dollars laying around, this is the #1 card to pick up. So many times I see this thing get used to win. Just destroy the table late game. And you can see where this card in this deck is so powerful. The 3 X's there, you know, 3 different targets. You get 1 off of each one of those right off the bat with Hinata. That's 15 points of damage right there with just 2 red. And then with these other mana enablers, you can just win the game. I see this card win the game so many times. I just used it to great effect the other night. Crackle with Power has my highest recommendation. That is the #1 card you should pick up right now. The Warlocks in the Commander's Crypt brought this card to my attention, and I bought a bunch of them. And I just checked, and non-foils are going for $7, foils are going for $10. This card is an absolute beast. If you've got 2 red in your deck, it is an auto-occlude, period. End of story. The end. Amen. So, I hope you liked my Hinata build. I really like making these deck techs. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. What else could be put in this deck? I absolutely love Commander. I love making videos. I love the community. So please, we're a growing channel. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. We really love Magic, and I promise you, we have got some really cool things coming on the horizon here. We're going to... our motto here at the Commander Crypt is we don't want to just be a Commander channel. We want to be a Commander community. You'll see. Once we get more and more subscribers, we're going to work toward causes, help each other out, help animals out, and be a union. So that's it. That's all I've got for you today. Later today, I'm going to be cracking this box right here. It's got all of it's got my 5 precons. So I'm going to open that and then open the precons. I know sometimes other people can't quite get out there. They just don't have the money yet to open these packs and boxes and precons. So I'm going to do that for you. So without further ado, we'll get on out of here. Thank you for watching my deck tech, and we hope to see you again soon on the Commander's Crypt.